Hey there, Internet. It's me, Broken Terrain, and I had an absolute blast making these fun, fantastic looking merchant stalls and merchant scatter terrain. I'm going to show you how I did it right after the drop. In my last video, I showed you WizKids Townsfolk People playset, and I painted all those great figures with Army Painter speed paints. And two of the little bits of scatter that really stood out, I actually have a handful. There's a couple shelves and an armor rack that I'm also going to use later on. But the two that really stood out to me were these two little merchant stalls. I absolutely love them, and I was super excited to get them on a base with all kinds of bits and pieces and really and display them well for my tabletop. And I decided, though, that the two just wasn't enough. And I challenged myself to make some merchant stalls that were at the very least close to quality and close in appearance. And I think I pulled it off. I think mine look really good. Arguably, maybe a little better. But you can let me know in the comments who did it better, me or WizKids. Be gentle, everyone. Thank you. I start off by taking the pink XPS foam and cutting it to size of these beams. I think if you had some square balsa stock that I've seen some people use, it'd be really good for this. I didn't have a craft or a wood type product that was quite that size, so I ended up going with XPS foam and made it work for me by utilizing wood in a lot of the other areas. Particular these thin craft sticks, I really like them. I flashed the dimensions up earlier. If you want to take a look, they're very useful. A very thin craft stick, much thinner than I've used previous, and I really like them for scale. They really worked well. I cut 3 boards to similar size and angle the edges, and after scribing into my XPS foam pole there, I kind of stab them in with a little bit of hot glue to hold them in place. I find that 3 of these craft sticks is the right size to match, or close enoughly as a match to the WizKids stalls. Then I'm just going to do that for the opposite side, hot glue them in, and it ends up working out really well. Now, I immediately notice that the WizKid merchant stall has a nice counter, and that's imperative, right? If you want to put all kinds of nifty little bits and baubles on your counter, then you need to have a nice wide counter. So I start by putting a stick right down the center, and it just so happened to be the perfect width to my XPS foam side pieces of the poles there, the square poles. So it was perfect. And then it allowed me to glue another piece of craft stick just to lock everything down, line everything up just right. I'm really happy with this, the way it's turning out, but I want to widen that counter just a little bit. The WizKid counter still had a little more area, and I wanted mine to be just as wide or wider. I mean, I want to put stuff all over it. I've extended it by 1 board off one side, and I think it's as wide right now. But hey, let's go wider. So I put a 3rd stick in there, 1 to either side, and I cut some little supports just to hold everything up. I turn to my matchsticks, and it just so happens that this thing is just as wide for 1 matchstick. It worked really well. That was pure coincidence. So, hey, thank you, crafting gods. I appreciate it. That was a win. And then I just cut a notch on either side and hot glue it in. And it, man, I'm minutes or no, what? an hour, couple hours into the craft, and already everything's just working and just perfect. I'd say I was going to jinx myself, but the craft's been done, and here I am cutting the video, and it went really well. Another matchstick lining the other two square poles up, little hot glue, and now finally that last stick across the top so that we can mimic that WizKid draped curtain top. A little comparison side by side. I made my stall a little wider, but otherwise pretty darn close, right? What do you think? Nice, not bad. I'm pretty happy with this. And check it out, a corner stall. I just did two sides, the two corner sides there with the countertop, and I matched it in angled the boards in the corner. Now I'm going to drape them with some of this cheesecloth so that we can get our fabric tops. I lay it down so I can take a rough measurement and grab some shears. I have tried to cut this with X-Acto and ruler, and it just doesn't work. Do yourself a favor, keep a nice sharp pair of scissors in your crafting area. You'll always use them. I cut the strip and cut enough so I can do both stalls. Measure it for length, cut to size, or at least close, because we can always go back and trim it. And then I hot glue it down, first to one side, then match the kind of the draped look of the WizKids as I glue the center, and then again match the drape when I finally hot glue it to the third pole there. After I trim it to size, I'm going to put some white PVA glue in a bit of water, mix it up, and use that water and glue to paint over and stiffen the cheesecloth and harden it up a little bit. This is going to help it take paint later on. Though, to be perfectly honest, you could paint your whole stall and then put the cheesecloth over it, and I think that might look really good. This cheesecloth is left over from my pirate ship build from way back when it was close to first starting the channel, and I end up dyeing that cheesecloth with a tea to give it kind of a kind of an antiqued look. And it would have worked really well. In fact, maybe a little better than painting it the way I did. So a little advice from me to you, maybe put that on last. Then I turned to my some 6" by 6" wood pieces for bases. I got these for the lava tiles back in the day, and now I have a bunch left over, so I've decided to use those as a base. And I did 5, one for each stall, and then I have the shelves and armor that I'm going to do a 5th stall on, and then I had all these offcuts, so I started to do these little pieces of scatter terrain that would go in the market. I did a fishmonger's cart, which I showed you earlier. Now I'm working on a butcher's table, and I'm carving some big old pieces of meat out of some XPS foam. And this one's a little like a ham hock with a little toothpick glued into the end to signify a bone. And I really like that butcher's table because I can utilize it for monsters too. Monsters might have a big butcher's table where they're slaughtering people, and the heroes need to put a stop to it. I made a lot of crates and boxes with the craft sticks. I had a ton of fun. This is for the fruit vendor. And I found some little wooden beads, and they were just right to glue a toothpick through them. and I cut the toothpick out so that it looked like a little stem. And I made a whole bunch of them, these like little apple type things. And just a squirt of white PVA, and I'm going to arrange them all so you can see the stem a bit. And they look random. I'm going to try to make them look random. And I'll paint these up as fruit. I'll do a couple boxes, I'll do a second box with a different bead. Almost a pineapple-y looking kind of thing. And I split one bead and have it like a cut apple on the counter there. I'm pretty pleased with how that turned out. Here's my tart cart. Perhaps my favorite piece of the build. And there's the butcher's table. I used a thin sheet of plastic to create a meat cleaver that was on the table. My bread merchant. My daughter got to choose what was the last merchant stall, and she liked the idea of someone selling some bread. Now that I've got everything down on their bases, it's time to flock these bases and start painting. So first, I'm going to put more white PVA down, coat the whole thing, and then I'm going to take it to my craft sand, my flocking craft sand, and just dip the whole piece in. Get it all covered everywhere with the glue, and set it aside to dry. Of course, don't forget some of the smaller pieces, the butcher's table. It also needs to get dipped in the sand for flock. Here's everything all set up. And once I got everything dried, I hit it with I hit the craft sand with the Black Magic Craft a base coat, half matte Mod Podge, half black matte paint. Then I took everything else out, and we had some really nice weather while I was doing this, and I was able to hit them with a nice black spray primer. And then I turned to my Mississippi mud, paint all of the ground up, hit all of the wood with this burnt umber. Just cover all of it. And there is a lot of wood with these pieces, so every chance I get, I add little pops and bits of color. This here is going to be my potion shop. I'm going to align potions across the counter of the main stall and then along this shelf there. I'm going to use this antique parchment from Apple Barrel to bring color back to my fabric covering my stalls. And this is where I had a little trouble painting the cheesecloth. I think I had some trouble painting it earlier with maybe a wagon build. I should have learned my lesson and actually finished the project off with the cheesecloth instead of trying to paint over it. But hopefully I've learned my lesson this time. I'm going to go back in all that wood and dry brush with a nice honey brown, pick out all the wood texture. Boy, these WizKids pieces look absolutely amazing dry brushed. Absolutely amazing. Lots of great wood grain and texture. And my pieces with the craft sticks don't look so bad either. I'm going to stripe the awnings. 2 of them are going to get a red stripe. 2 of them are going to get a blue, just to pop a little color in, like I mentioned. And every chance I get, there's lots of bits and pieces. If I can pop a little red in, a little blue in, there's a lot of metal that I'll end up coloring. But anything to get a little color in, break the things up, draw the eye. I want you to wish you were that small so you could walk through the market and see all the wares. Here you see my general store. I wanted one market stall that just seemed like it had everything. Now, if you've been watching me for a little while, maybe you've seen my treasure tokens video. I've broken out my potions on a couple of occasions. I'm breaking them out again just to let you know the seller, he still hasn't come back to Amazon. Please, sir, ma'am, if you're watching this video, I get requests all the time for these wonderful little potion bottles. Please come back, sell us the potion bottles. I would appreciate it. Everybody would appreciate it. Thank you. I'm going to use them at my potion stand in the general store. And once I've got the bits and pieces painted up, I once again cover the ground in a white PVA, and then I'm going to flock with my green turf. And I didn't want these to be boring, so I come back with the white PVA, and in spots where there'd be a lot of traffic, a lot of foot traffic, a lot of wear on the turf, I'm going to flock with this craft or this diorama gravel. Here I've got it where the tart cart seller would be standing often. And I'm going to put it in the middle of a lot of the stalls, a lot of where the foot traffic would be for those merchants. So for a little while now, I've had a static grass applicator, but every attempt I've made at using it has failed. So, with that being said, I bought more grass for it. Lots of new different types of grass. I put some in this darn static applicator. Once again, I'm hitting the ground with some white PVA glue, and now I'm trying to use the darn thing, and it's failing on me. Every time I've used it, it's failed on me, and this is no exception. But the grass is in there. I tap it off, tap it into other spots where it's missed, and then I just go and kind of manually tease the grass up with my knife, with a toothpick later on. For the other pieces, I'll manually apply it. It doesn't look amazing. I know it can look better, but manually dropping it on there and teasing it up kind of works well. It doesn't look so bad. So if you're wanting to try static grass and you can't afford an applicator, or you're worried it won't work, don't worry too much about it. You can still utilize that static grass in really cool ways. I have a few little grass clumps pre-made that I wanted to embellish. Again, you can see I'm really low on the brown ones. It's because they provide a little pop of color that I love to add, and I add them more than I do the green ones. Now I'm going to show you some fantastic close-ups of all of the pieces, the scatter and the merchant stalls that I've done. I'm absolutely in love with these pieces. I think they're full of character, and they're going to add an incredible layer of depth to my town and city setups. And my players absolutely love to go shopping, so I think these are going to just play a huge part in lots of stories to come. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you liked this video, please smash that like button. Hit subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And if you've got family and friends that like this kind of stuff, please, you'll do them a favor and me a favor. Share it with them. I would really appreciate it. After I get done showing off all the pieces, I've got this wonderful town setup that I'm going to share with you. So I hope you keep watching and check it out. Thank you so much, everybody. And as always, like each other, love each other, and craft on. Tinley,
did you see
Tinley,
that, Captain?
The wagon's
what an
full.
amazing
Tinley,
market. They have
full.
everything.
Please,
I've never
please.
been to one like this. It's amazing.
We're running out of money, Tinley.
Oh, stop it. You're acting like I'm buying things for myself. It's for the Shamrocks.
Yes, I know, and that's why they're not mad at you about it. But someone has to rein it in, Tinley. Come on.
See what I got you. You're gonna love it.
You got me something? Really?
You're gonna look so handsome. I can't wait for you to try it on.
Oh, Tinley.